Imagine being in charge of a new game console's launch. After you've done all of the hard work coming up with a catchy name, capitalizing a letter in the middle, creating endless controllers, and dispersing them to game sites, you'll need to persuade developers to make games for it, at a time when there is no user base. Today we are going to talk about top 10 best video game opening of all time. Before starting this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more future updates. Number 10. Super Mario 64, Nintendo 64, 1996. It didn't have the right to work. While third-party developers for the NES and SNES cranked out one rigid, infuriating platformer after another, Mario was founded on Nintendo's full mastery of the 2D plane, discovering a delightful velocity and nuance in player movement. Just because Nintendo's new machine was 64-bit and could handle 3D polygonal areas didn't imply a Mario game was the best way to show off its new power. Mario 64, on the other hand, showed us how to adapt the spirit of adventure, humor, and innovative puzzling into 3D, as if it were the easiest thing in the world. He could have followed in the footsteps of silent film stars, but he didn't, thanks to Miyamoto-san. Number 9. Halo Combat Evolved, Xbox, 2001. Halo stayed underground for a while after being announced as a PC shooter and receiving fanatical slavering from that platform's beige-loving acolytes. It had become the property of Microsoft when it reappeared, clothed in green armor and looked remarkably open in design for the period, and they had understandably chosen to debut it exclusively for their new game system, even though the newfangled Xbox, as we assume it was called, never took off. This brave move will be remembered for a long time, depending on which side of the PC console divide you stand. It's remembered differently, but what a game! Warthogs, multiplayer is available, grassy grenades. When your shield is recharging, you'll hear this sound. Among day one discs, this is truly an all-timer. Number 8. Ridge Racer, PlayStation, 1994. Yes, we heard that voice in our heads as well when we read the above header, and we apologize for inducing the same reaction in yours. But doesn't that say a lot about the drift-heavy PS1 launch racer's impact? Namco handed up a franchise-starting sizzler on day one of PlayStation's epic voyage, a perfect marriage of easy-to-digest but increasingly hard races. Polygons flying at us at speeds we'd never thought of pre-PS1, and vehicles that felt really different from one another to drive. Number 7. Soulcalibur Dreamcast, 1999. Fighting games are a dangerous business to start. I mean, half of the multiplayer audience leaves enraged and convinced that the game is based on complete bullshit. And, compared to the players who would sit alone and play Halo, solo fighting game players are an uncommon breed. So Sega went to great lengths to ensure that Soulcalibur was flawless. That was a very astute commercial decision. Swords were present. There was a lot of stepping around. Voldo was present. The Dreamcast's arcade-like graphic reproduction flawlessly reproduced the fluid animations and velocity. And the controls were great too, even if we never got used to operating it with a modified dinner plate. Number 6. Resignation PS4, 2013. If you bought a PS4 at launch, you spent Christmas 2013 wrapped in blankets, your right trigger finger in agony, blood vessels recovering what were once the whites of your eyes, pursuing the Resignation high score. Despite the open-world games that dominated the landscape when Sony and Microsoft released their next-generation consoles, it was a voxel-based arcade shooter that captivated us and had us cooing at the DualShock 4's internal speaker. The delights of the coin-op era, it appears, are permanent. Number 5. Killer Instinct, Xbox One, 2013. Microsoft may claim that exclusive launch titles haven't been a priority in recent generations, but it did pull a pleasant surprise out of the bag when Rare announced a Killer Instinct relaunch for the Xbox One. KI 2013 overcame a shaky launch and remained one of the platform's big draws well into its lifespan, agile and bombastic like it had always been in the 90s, but now deep enough to sound the dog whistle for tournament players. KI 2013 got over a shaky launch and remained one of the platform's big draws well into its lifespan. Saberwolf, what would we have done without you? Number 4. Wii Sports Wii, 2006. It's one thing to put out a launch title that people enjoy, It just never happens, does it? Releasing one that ends up crossing typical gaming demographics and pushes its way into wider public consciousness. With the exception of that one time in 2006, the ideal storm was Wii Sports. Something truly novel about a console, specifically some wiggly wands that used motion recognition to operate games, and a simple, friendly-looking suite of titles that demonstrated how motion control could be used to sports like tennis. Or you could go bowling. Or, of course, curling plastic wands at plasma screens made of glass. Number 3. Demon's Souls PS5, 2020. It was the germ from which the Souls-like genre sprouted. Those textures, on the other hand, got a little ruffled, didn't they? So a brand new remake that retained all of the mysteries, stoic challenge, and atmosphere while modernizing the visuals and animations with PS5's newly realized might was always going to be a winner. The Flame Lurker, on the other hand, can still enter the bin. Number 2. SSX PS2, 2000. As we've seen so many times on this list, another wonderful bit of lightning in a bottle. When the PlayStation 2 was released, extreme sports culture was riding the crest of a wave. Massive jackets made to survive freezing pistes and Burton beanies had infiltrated millennial high street fashion. As a result, when SSX appeared, it drew a lot of attention. Sure, it portrayed the excitement of gliding down a snow-capped peak on a gleaming dinner platter, but SSX also nailed the cultural cachet of winter sports at the time. It was full of attitude, personality, and an eye for beauty. And, let's face it, when given the option of taking the quickest route, or the one with the most potential for grinds and grabs, no one chooses the latter. Number 1. Super Mario World, SNES, 1990. Something involving a shape-shifting tradesman, a dinosaur, and a kidnapping-obsessed turtle. Perhaps, it appears to be a far-fetched scenario. They apparently didn't pay much attention to the Bob Hoskins film's source material. 2 years later, to be exact. Now, let's get serious. Super Mario World improved an already excellent platformer by adding power-up modifiers, mysteries, and a natural rhythm and flow to the levels, earning it a spot in the pantheon of mythically good games, let alone launch games. That's a wrap for today's video about top 10 best video game opening of all time. Hope you enjoyed the video. What are your thoughts on our list? Let us know in the comments section below. And make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more future updates.